We've cornered the market on the masochists
Yes.
buying all our products.
Yes.
All right. Breaker one nighter on interwebs. Get your ears on for the GMB show for the next 20 minutes plus or minus. We're going to be talking about how to get stronger, how to build your agility, and how to do it all in a way that is actually kind of fun instead of sucking like a lot of exercise tends to do. So my name's Andy. Here with me is Ryan Hurst, our head coach, and the illustrious and reclusive Jarlo Alano, master physical therapist, certified Battlefield Cali instructor, all
That's my
around
favorite.
hard mofo.
Yeah,
That's right.
happy to be here again. It's hard to
Yes,
get
yes.
lined up. That's the main thing.
It's almost like we live in different places around the world, you know?
In significantly different
Yeah.
time zones
Well,
before.
it's funny because since I'm in Honolulu and our company is officially based in Honolulu, in all of our emails we have our mailing address because, well, that's the law. You should have a physical mailing address when you're mailing a bunch of people. It's a spam law. And so sometimes people read the email and are like, "Oh, I wish I were in Hawaii so I could see you guys." And I don't think people realize that we are actually spread out all over. We've got our staff is in Miami, Portland, Seattle, Honolulu, and Osaka, and we have trainers in Australia, South Africa, um,
England,
England,
Canada,
Canada, and New Zealand,
yeah, all over.
I
and
think it's great. Everybody. It used to be that when you said you're an international company, it was like this big thing. But now it's like if you're not an international company, what's wrong with you, right? If you don't have people in different countries,
yeah.
something's wrong, right?
Well, it's amazing, because we have clients in like well over 100 countries. I don't know how many because I never sat down to count. And but just like a few weeks ago, we were saying something about, oh, it's weird. We don't seem to have any listeners in like Chile or Japan. And then some guy left a review that he's from Chile and he was in Japan. And I was like, ah, two birds knocked out right there.
We're
Perfect.
done.
You know,
We're
so it's
done.
great that not only are we in different places, but everybody who's watching this and the people using our stuff are in different places. So anyway, people who are watching this in different places, congratulate yourselves. Thank you.
Send us a note too. Tell us where you're
Yeah,
at. You can pin
yeah.
stuff on.
Send us a
Yeah.
postcard or a video or something.
We'll make a
Love to see
map
that.
and put like little pins in it showing everybody, Oh, wait, that's been
Cool.
done before. Never mind.
So today we're going to be talking about not just how cool we are because we have friends in different countries. We are going to be talking about some really interesting things about what happens when you get stuck because I think that's something that happens to everyone, right? Everyone's going to experience this where they're going to get stuck when if you're trying something difficult, you can't just have like smooth, steady progress, right? It's like the everyone's probably seen the chart. There's like, how you want things to be, and it's like it's a straight line, right? And then how life really is, and it's like this horrible thing that goes like this and finally gets to the end point. And that's how training is like. That's how everything worthwhile is like. And so everyone gets stuck, and we're going to be talking about like sort of ways around that. But first, I want to read a review because people take the time to review us on iTunes, which we appreciate, and I want to give them their 15 seconds of glory. This is from Lovatov1. Uh, 5-star review, made me a believer. Before purchasing anything from GMB, I listened to the first few podcasts. I've still got a way to go before I'm caught up, but it's no nonsense and fun. Really? I thought it was like extra nonsense and fun. But anyway, I have now purchased the level 1 bundle and become a member of Alpha Posse. Thank you. To better increase my skill set. It also provides the most basic and comprehensive way to start doing gymnastic style training out there. Well, thank you. We're glad that you are enjoying our stuff and see you in Alpha.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Kind words. In terms of talking about being stuck, it's a little bit more than just like, oh, I'm not getting stronger in this one thing, or I'm not, I'm having trouble touching my toes. In terms of stuckness, that we want to talk about now is Um, all right. So everybody knows you have to have your basic fundamentals down, right? You have to crawl before you can walk, before you can, all that stuff. Everybody says that, and it's true. You just have to build up your base before you can move and before you can do different things. But at some point, you have to decide where to go from where you are,
Yeah.
right? There's really no benefit to be doing the same things over and over again because you haven't hit that magical 5 sets of 50 seconds that you have to hit in this perfect pattern before you are allowed to go on
You
to the
don't
next.
need to continue beating your head against the wall until it finally lets you through.
Yes,
Yeah.
you don't get bonus
Yeah.
points for doing a
Just,
dead
I think
horse.
it's like, it almost seems like it's a permission issue.
All
Like,
right.
like, you know, you know what you're able to do. You think you might be able to do the next thing, but somebody's like, oh, but I'm not allowed to do that yet.
Yeah.
Says who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who is the monitor with a whip behind your
Yeah.
back?
Um, and
So,
so yeah, it's really a big thing. But like you said, that's also important to have the foundation right and the fundamentals. And so you can't ignore that and just go full speed ahead either.
right.
So Ryan,
So
what's the
yeah,
answer?
that seems to be contrary at contrary
Yeah.
points, but it's not. So
Yeah,
let's.
right, right.
I know we talked about this before, so let's see what Ryan had to say about that.
All right, here's the thing. I'm gonna use the front lever as an example. All right. So the front lever. When you think of a front lever, what do you think? You think, from the rings, or it could be the bar, but we're gonna look at the rings. Your body's completely parallel to the ground with your legs extended, and you have this flat body. Okay. Wow. That's great. That's what everybody wants. And as two of you mentioned, you can't just jump up to the advanced progressions and think that you're going to be nailing the front lever by skipping the basics. So, you start off with the basics, and what does that mean? Well, the basics basically means having a proper understanding of the form necessary to work towards those higher progressions, but also having the basic strength. So, something to start off with. I'm just going to use front lever as an example, of course. So, we're going to talk about the pulling prep, straight arm pulling prep. Okay. Now, this pulling prep basically is making sure that you have the mechanics necessary to begin starting the front lever work. You
You
get
should
that down.
describe what that is because
Okay,
pulling
the
prep is
pulling prep.
really
So
just
basically, this is the
your
pulling prep.
word. No
My
one else
arm
knows
is
what it is.
my arm is completely straight. I'm hanging onto the rings. I don't bend my arm, and I start with my shoulder up by my ear, and I pull my shoulder down, pulling my chest up. Now this is with both arms. This is both arms. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the pulling prep. Okay. This is strengthening.
So for anyone, that's the pulling prep. If you
That's the
don't know
pulling
what that is,
prep.
when Ryan
Okay.
talks about that, point of
Pulling
reference.
prep.
Okay.
So from there, once you just have that down, that's it. That's it. Now, how do you know when you have it? Well, you test it. And that's the key point of moving on. Yeah, you could perform, let's say, 10 repetitions for 10 sets, making sure you do it every other day, and you have the proper X amount of calories in your body and X amount of hours that you slept and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, it's a little bit easier than that. Test the next level. See if you're able to perform the next progression safely, but also at a point that would allow you to start working on it. So what does that mean? When you go to the next level, and let's say in this case the next level is pulling your knees up to your chest. This is starting to work on the core strength that is necessary to help you with the front lever. It's not about trying to go upside down or anything like that. It's just simply putting your knees up while keeping that pulling prep position and holding it. Can you do that? And you know what? In the very beginning, you might be able to do the pulling prep and skip to the next progression right away. And if you can already start working on it, good. Keep working on it. Okay? Can you do that? Yes. Spend a little bit of time on that. How much is a little bit of time? Well, enough time so that you feel comfortable and that your breathing is not labored when you're performing it. You can talk to someone while you're doing it. And what I like to use is reciting the ABCs, or if you're from a different country, whatever is applicable to that particular language. Can you do that? If you can do that, test the next language, Text the next, test the next level.
Text the next language.
Text me while you're in that thing. So that's a way that you can see if you're ready for the next level. Now, if you can perform that next level perfectly, well then you're pretty amazing. That's wonderful. And chances are, though, you might not be able to do that. But what happens is a lot of people think that you have to stick with, just like what you guys were saying, you have to stick with that particular level for X amount of days and hit that time or whatever it is to get it. I don't really believe you have to do that.
Interject here just one real quick thing. That's why in our programs we give a range, right? So let's just say I'm making it right now. We would say 3 to 5 sets of 8 to 12, right? That's a nice broad range, but that's a minimum and a max. And it doesn't mean at max of 5 sets of 12 you have to hit that before you go on to the next thing. It's more like if you're already good, don't go beyond that. And then go for that, whatever that phase is, for the next couple of weeks. Stay at that, and then put more energy into some of the other things that you aren't so good at. So it's a range, and that's why we give a range, because we don't know you. If you are a student in the class or a client in the gym, we would know you, and we wouldn't say, okay, 3 to 5 sets of whatever. We would give you what we know you could do and progress from.
Yeah, so and think about that too, like 3 sets of 8 versus 5 sets of 12, right? That's a 36 rep difference. It's more than double, right? But that's still an okay range because it gives you, based on your level of skill, your level of strength, and the other moves you're doing, right? It's not just one move in a vacuum.
Right.
With everything else put together, it gives you a lot of room to do more one day, less another day, depending on how you feel you're progressing on that and the the other skills, right?
Thank
and
you.
so that's why ranges are
auto-regulation. And that's auto-regulation.
Concept. The ability to have this sort of bandwidth. You can do something more today and something less. And so it's so interesting that people are almost resistant to that. They feel like they have to be at the max either all the time, or they have to hit that max before they're allowed to go and do this next step in the progression. Yeah. No, it's arbitrary. It's straight up arbitrary. And some of these progressions, like in that front lever, they're in this so-called step progression, where one is supposed to be harder than the other. But we've seen it where some people can do one thing, but they couldn't do that one thing before.
Right. Yep.
Right? And it makes sense because there's different leverages, there's different strength within that person.
Another thing is that people totally neglect. We've now, in like the body weight skill, gymnastic based training kind of community, people have latched on to this idea of progressions, and that's good. There's definitely different levels of skill that you need to step up in a logical manner. But people seem to get this idea somewhere that there's some magical progression that's always right. And that's not true. And the reason is very simple. You're not just learning skill. You also have to develop strength. You have to build mobility. You have to build endurance. You have to build body position awareness. And you have to develop skill. Maybe more. There's several attributes training at the same time. And so while one skill might be easier or more difficult for you, it may require more or less strength for you. And you can't just stack them up. These will always require more attributes than everything else because no two people are coming into this with the same body and experience. Some people's strength, if they're untrained, their strength will increase very rapidly, but their motor skills won't increase as rapidly. Some people who have played sports before, their motor skills will shoot straight up, but their strength, if they've trained before, won't grow at as quick a rate. So depending on your own current level of different attributes, those attributes are going to increase at different rates. So no one stacked progression is going to be perfect for everyone. And so that's why You can't just say, this is the golden progression, follow this and you can do no wrong, and everyone must hit this level on this before they can go to this, because it's just not true. It's just not
Exactly.
true.
And
If
that's
there were
why it's
just
so
one thing you're training, yeah, that would work. But we're not
right.
training one thing, we're training several things.
And that's why it's so tough for us to create these progressions, right? Because going back to the front lever, thing is, I can create a tutorial. We can create this tutorial and say, okay, here is how you can progress towards the front lever. But the thing is, I'm not going to show you every single option in the world for this front lever. I'm just thinking about maybe the 70% of people out there in the world, that the average people who need and would benefit from these particular progressions. The thing is, you could use the ice cream maker, and you could work on the ice cream maker the entire time and just do that, and you could probably get your front lever. You could do from an inverted hang lower, just do that, and just do that. You probably get it over time. But the thing is that really going to benefit the 70% of people out there that want to start doing it? And that's why it's so tough, right, to do these progressions and say, okay, this is exactly how you need to do it now.
And that's why our programs are based on ranges and not minimums.
Yep.
Because based on you might need to hit a lower range on one thing and a higher range on something else before those combine for the next progression, right?
Absolutely.
But it's not minimums. Minimums are kind of worthless, actually.
And
Maybe
it's
not
hard.
worthless, but
natural.
they're very one-dimensional.
That's right.
But you bring up another good point about we're doing multiple things at the same time. So it's not just the front lever. You know, looking at rings one, our program
It's
rings
never
one.
just the front lever.
Exactly. It's all this other stuff going on. So let's look at it and look at actual, like, if we're working towards a flow. In our programs, we all have the end flow where we're combining particular movements together into one chain of a flow. So when you're working through the phases, you might be able to achieve a particular level at this phase. So let's say like you have the third progression for all of these movements we'd like for you to get before you move on to phase two. Thing is, you might have already achieved maybe the fourth or the fifth progression of a particular movement in phase two, and you might still be maybe the first progression, even though that you're in of that phase. Well, how do you progress? How do you move on? And this is something that we hear a lot people is say, okay, I haven't achieved this particular movement yet. Is it okay to move on and go to the next phase? Yeah. So what you do is you focus on the other movements at the level, the new phase, but you continue to work at that you continue to work on the other movement that you haven't got at that level. Just because you haven't achieved something here doesn't mean that you can't move on with the rest of the stuff. You can still continue to work on the other things. And I'm not being very clear, but basically what I'm saying is that it's not a vacuum, okay? And things are always going to be different. And you need to look at where you are and the movements and adjust those accordingly, just to keep progressing. And just because you don't have something doesn't mean that you can't move on elsewhere. Does that make sense?
I mean,
I'm getting off
maybe another example would be to take it out of physical stuff and just say, let's say you've got reading, math, science, and art.
Okay, thank you.
Right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yep.
reading, math, science, and art. And your reading level is going up, your math level is going up, your science level is going up, but you're just not very creative. You know? Like, do you stop practicing reading, math, and science? Or do you stop trying to challenge and improve those? You say, you know what? I'm just going to keep reading the Hardy Boys for the next year until my art increases. No, you're going to move on. You're going to read some C.S. Lewis.
It's really natural to want to have these steps, right? To follow. Because we all want to be able to, we all need a guideline. I mean, especially in the beginning, it's just nice to have because you want to know where you are, you want to know where you stand, because you know where you want to end up. So you want to do all the right things. So that's totally understandable, and it's good to want to be able to do that. In some cases, you're going to have to realize that there is no right way. There is no one right way towards something. You know, that old saying that there's different paths to the same destination. And so it's trite, but it's true. And you have to be able to think, well, I'm putting my time in. If you've been putting the time in and you've been working, so that's the difference. You can't just go and say, oh yeah, I've been doing it once, maybe twice a week for, a few times and I'm still not getting it. So I gotta move on now. No, there's a difference between that. And it's all these extremes. You can always just point to that guy that's just like, see, he didn't build up his base and 'cause he needs to go and do this thing over and over and over again. Yeah, that guy needs to do it, but that's not everybody. People have put their time in. They've spent they've been doing it 3 to 4 times a week like they should for the last 6, 7, 8 weeks. They put their time in. Are you gonna keep holding them back because they haven't hit your arbitrary, you know, really pulled out of your ass measurements? And that's really what it is.
Yeah.
There's no thing that says you have to hit that 5 sets of 60 seconds in a hold. That's just no. That is straight up made up. And I'm just going to say that right now because it's the way it is. Come on now.
It's a suggestion.
It's a suggestion.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And
right?
that's all that you can do. Yeah.
To imply that it's
And there's
more,
nothing wrong with being able to hold a hollow body for 5 minutes. That's great. That's great. That's a good thing.
but to imply that you have to have that and everybody 100% of people have to have that, that's flat out wrong.
Yeah.
On the face of it, it's flat out wrong. Come on now. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's suggestions and there's things that are good to have, and there's also a level of of safety guideline too, right?
Sure.
There's it's been said many times before, a lot of people want to get like the Iron Cross or one arm chins and they end up with tendonitis. Like, actually, I've never heard of anyone getting an Iron Cross or a one arm chin without experiencing tendonitis. I've never heard of it, right? Everyone does. It happens, right? So pretty much you will have that problem happen to you if you chase these things. And so, yes, you want to condition yourself slowly over time, but there's a difference between like, this is a level of skill and strength that you need to give yourself to slowly condition over time for something that has a safety concern. There's a difference between that and just pure like poor logic of that lumps everything down to one metric. I'm sorry, but a hollow body hold for a certain amount of time, it does nothing for your skill development.
See,
It's increasing
that's why we're railing
endurance.
against this. This is why we're like, oh, this is why I'm kind of getting mad at it. It's because it doesn't make any sense. If you think about it and if you go about it, you're not going to argue for this because you know that there's going to be different stages. There's going to be individual concerns. And yes, we want people to be safe.
Yeah.
There are different attributes and different stages, and
right.
trying to conflate them to one metric does not make any logical sense whatsoever.
And you can always put that straw man of, oh, they're going to get people injured. No, that's silly. Why would we want people to get injured?
Exactly.
Yeah. With thousands and thousands of customers, if we were just injuring everybody, we'd be out of business pretty fast.
And
But
actually,
we're not, because
that's
out
what
of
we-
thousands and thousands of people,
Those
what, 70% of our people end up purchasing a second program.
That's right.
Obviously, something's working for them.
Because they got injured and they want to get injured again
That's right.
by doing what
This
we're
injury, yeah. Shows
Because
what kind
our
of person
approach
you
is
are.
inherently dangerous.
We've cornered the market on the masochists
Yes.
buying all our products.
Yes.
We should send out that phasic inventory and see if they're masochists. And I bet you they would be. Yeah. Okay.
Probably.
Oh,
What's
peg
the psychological condition where people injure themselves because they like the attention they get at the hospital?
Oh, that's the Munchausen's, right?
Yeah. That's right. That's our target audience right there.
Man,
Nailed it.
you talk about niche marketing. How can we have to work
If we were only that smart to target such a narrow niche, we could make a killing probably.
So
But
bad.
all right, but to be honest, we're just not that smart, and so instead we just made some shit that works.
Yeah.
Sorry guys,
Yeah,
we're not
sorry.
evil geniuses.
Sorry about that. No, but yeah,
So-
getting back to what you're saying, it's There is no, it's this way and that's the only way. No, it just doesn't work that way. Each person is different. You need to figure out what works for you. And
so with that said, then when you get stuck, not if, because when you get stuck, what should you do? What should you do? What's, you know?
Well, just like I was mentioning earlier, you check and see what's going on. I mean, if you're at a level, if you've spent the time working on at a particular level and you're stuck, go to the next level and see if you can start working on that. That's what it's about.
See what part of it you're stuck on.
Yeah.
Is it the coordination? Is it the flexibility? Is it the strength? Figure out what part of it.
And it could be that you've been working on it too much. That is something else too.
Worn out.
Yeah, you're like,
Burn
your body's
out.
like, screw this shit. I need to move on. And so really test it. You've always got to be testing to see where you are.
Yeah, we've said before, every session is diagnostic in a sense.
Yeah.
Every session is always a progress report. And that's the auto-regulation that we always come back to instead of arbitrary metrics. You should always be checking your performance and then, write that down, mark it down, take notes. And so then the next time you know what you're comparing yourself to. And I don't mean as in like know what you have to beat, but just know where you were. And so you can sort of have some comparison about how you're trending up or down in different things,
Yeah. And there are going to be times where, you're spending time working on a particular skill and you just don't have the energy and you feel like you're sliding. Well, that's a little different topic. That might be where you need to back off a bit and really take a break. But if you're just
sleep more, eat more.
Eat. That
stuff is important.
Yeah, and going all out. It's auto-regulation. Just thinking that you need to go 100% every single time. I don't believe in that. Listen to your body. Work at where you are that day. If you're feeling really good that day, well then try the next progression.
Yeah.
The next day you
right.
feel like
and if
crap,
you can't do it, you can't
off.
do it, and you drop back.
That's right. That's it.
We're talking about things that are very complex.
Yes.
These are things that over time, and that's why there's so many different people trying to do so many different things. It's not easy. It's not going to be step by step.
Right.
That curve isn't going to be straight.
Yeah.
And what you want to do is apply, and we've talked about this before, you got to apply critical thinking to every aspect of your plan. It's nice to follow a plan that says it's got everything you need, but it doesn't exist. You have to have ranges. There has to be changes daily, weekly, monthly, based on where you are, and you have to apply that thought process to it.
Are you going to believe in what the guru tells you, or are you going to believe in your ability to learn from your experience? One of those is empowering, and one of those is enslaving.
Yes.
I'm not saying either one is wrong, because some people might just want to be slaves, but I know which one I prefer.
That's why you're married.
That's why I'm married. Exactly.
Different topic.
Damn it.
No, but I think we've covered, this is a good talk, and it's tough because this is what we see. Am I ready? Can I move on to the next thing? I don't know. Can you?
This
it's
is
up
the
to
email
you.
we get 3 dozen of a day.
And we can help you out. I mean, we love hearing from you, but really it comes down to you understanding where you are.
Yeah.
And you deciding whether or not you're ready.
If you're putting the time in, you've basically given yourself that permission to know whether you can move on or not. Mm-hmm. Right? If you haven't, maybe you haven't earned that yet. Right? For yourself. This is for yourself.
Right.
We're not going to be the one to tell you, okay, no, you're not ready.
We're not going to give you your certificate of handstand.
Yeah. Deep down inside, if you know if you've been putting the effort for a long enough time that you can go, okay, maybe in this plan I need to do something a little different, and I can go ahead and go move on. It's there. You already know. You don't need somebody else to tell you.
Because honestly, if you've been training, if you've been practicing, say an hour a day, 3 days a week for 8 weeks. All right? That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it's 24 hours of dedicated practice, right? In 24 hours, if you can't learn, if you can't tell if you're progressing, you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Either you're watching TV or doing something and not focusing on your training, and that's a whole different story, you know. But in 24 hours of training, 8 weeks, 3 days a week, 1 hour a day, you should know if you're making progress at a reasonable rate, right? You should have some idea of if you've improved and if you feel that you're ready to move on. Yeah, I think you should totally know in that time
Give
frame.
yourself some credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. All right. Good stuff there. We're going to end it there.
Can I go to the bathroom?
Yeah. Potty time.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Don't be that. Okay?
I don't know. Can
Give yourself
you?
some credit. You don't need permission from us to move on, or anyone really. You know, if you've done the work, then you can tell. You know. All right.
Thanks,
Good. Well,
All
thanks for watching. Stick with us. We'll talk to you again sometime soon.